So you're curious about what a freelance editor actually does. The truth is that you'll hear the term freelance editor applied to numerous different types of roles and levels of depth that the editor is going into to complete the work. And I talk about this in more detail in my How to Become a Freelance Editor course. But in general, a freelance editor is looking for very sort of copy editing level mistakes, grammar, punctuation, spelling, and things like that, but can also be much more involved in a rigorous process of editing. So if you're editing someone's thesis or academic dissertation, you might also be providing expertise because you have areas of knowledge in that field where you can say, this doesn't make sense, this seems out of order, you forgot to include XYZ. So in general, a freelance editor is the second set of eyes that a freelance writer or author or owner of a business might need in order to step in and do contract work. Now, the word freelance has an important meaning for the purpose of being a freelance editor. This is because a freelance editor is not an employee. He or she works on contract, so they provide their feedback on an as-needed basis. It could be a retainer situation where they do certain amounts of editing per week or per month, or it could be on an ad hoc or as-needed basis by the client. But freelance means essentially that you are a contractor, not an employee, so you're not entitled to the traditional sort of benefits and workplace protections that an employee would be, but you get to decide how and when to do the work as a freelance editor. You're also essentially running your own business as a freelance editor because you have to be marketing and pitching to clients, talking to clients about the services that you can provide them, negotiating contracts, doing the work, and turning it in. The cool thing about this is that even though that might sound like a lot of work, it's pretty easy to jump into the field of freelance editing if you've ever worked as a proofreader, writer, or editor before, or even if you just have an eye for spotting mistakes. That's a key sign that you might succeed as a freelance editor. You might also have a passion in the industry or in the type of copy that needs to be edited. So because I've worked in academia for some time, I like to work as an editor on academic projects because I know the common challenges that writers and academics experience in pulling together this material. But what it looks like for you could be different. You could want to edit email newsletters or blog copy or website content copy, or you can work on more involved projects like ebooks. But in general, you're going to determine as the editor how much work needs to be done. And this is why I always tell people, get a sample of the work first so you can see what you're dealing with and whether that's something that you want to be responsible for and dealing with. That really helps when you're a new freelance editor and are trying to figure out what to quote. But in essence, your job is to catch mistakes. Freelance editors are responsible for seeing where things could be improved, maybe opportunities for growth in the future, and then making direct changes to materials that have already been published or are about to be published. You must have an eye for detail if you want to be successful as a freelance editor. To learn more about the course I mentioned earlier, please visit the link below where I talk all about how to become a freelance editor, the 3 different levels of editing work, and how to appropriately price out and have negotiations with editing clients.